Hey, we're all thinking it. I broke my collarbone last night snowboarding. So, for all who are watching this, don't snowboard and stay inside. It's safer. Or just get better at snowboarding. Now, before we dive into this scene, this sunset interior scene, I want to mention that this scene, as well as many other scenes that you will see in the future, are all part of a film called Cardiac Hill that I was the DP on. Now, Cardiac Hill was written and directed by a gentleman named John Canfield. I'll leave all of that information down below, but all I want to say is that I am genuinely honored to have been DP on this project, and I am happy to show you scenes and breakdowns from this film as well, so you can take the techniques I used in this and maybe spice them up a little bit more for your own projects. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the old nitty-gritty lighting breakdown, because that's what this video is going to be. So we are shooting this project in LA, California, and ideally we would have just scheduled everything perfectly and everything went to plan, and we would shoot this at sunset and it would have been beautiful and we wouldn't have had to add any lights. But with a series of events throughout the entire day, it prolonged our schedule, and we had to shoot this scene at about 9 or 10 p.m. and it was plenty dark. So I kind of want to break down this scene, some of the obstacles that we run into when shooting night for day, and a few kind of special tricks that I added to really sell the look that it is nighttime out. So in this scene, you've got the mother cutting up some vegetables in the kitchen, and then she runs off to something out frame right. So let's go ahead and break down the lighting. Of course, we wanted to really sell the fact that it was this afternoon sun coming in, so I knew immediately to bring some exposure into the kitchen. I wanted to bring two lights in from this frame left side of the house, and now there are two windows that we can really see, or I guess 1.5. There's the one window right above the sink you see frame left, and then there's another window kind of hidden in that closet that you see in the back of the frame. So I knew that I wanted to bring some sunlight in there, and I knew I wanted them to be hard shafts of light to really create some sharp, hard light on the wall, on the countertop, splashing into the house. So the first light that I want to talk about here is, let's work from the closet forward. So the closet was a super simple light. We just had an aperture 600D with a reflector dish, and I just had that shining into the window. We had it on some high stands because I want to say the window is like 10-15 feet off the ground, and I still wanted to have this kind of upper directional sunlight coming into the closet. So we needed the light to be above the window. So that was casting, shining in, just creating some texture on, the spices that are back there, the drawers, cubbies, whatever there are, just creating some light in there. Now we move forward and we see the same consistent hard light coming in kind of into the kitchen, across the sink, the countertop, across mom, and onto the wall. And that's just to keep the consistency. So I wanted to have two lights to make sure our beam of light was going straight through both windows the same direction. So another light that I used, an aperture 600D, that might have been a 600D Pro, but we didn't need to use anything stronger because, we're shooting at night. We have total control of the light. Now this light was pretty standard. I just had it set to about the same exposure. I think it was about like 10% shining through, creating these hard shafts of light. So as we are cutting into this tight shot of cutting the bread, I want to talk about that real quick as we add this light in. The cutting the bread has some significance throughout the film, so I wanted to draw some attention to that as to where I placed my hard light source coming in the window. Because when I first put it up, it was in the shade and it was kind of like blocked behind a pillar or something like that, and I wanted to make sure that we were bringing some hard light and some attention to the bread as she's cutting it. So our eyes naturally as a viewer go to the brightest part of the image, so if we add in this hard light slash across the bread, it's kind of gonna subconsciously make us realize like this is where we need to look. So be mindful of that also when you're kind of throwing in your hard light sources, and get creative as to shaping your light and I guess giving it direction as well, like I did here with the bread. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky. We added two light modifiers here to really sell the look and make it look really nice and pretty, and I want to break that down. Now, first of all, you could be looking at the window and seeing that it is bright out. It's bright daylight. The window looks like it's almost blown out. How do we do that? It's night out. Typically, if you're shooting at night and punching light in the windows, you'll probably see the dark sky, and it might not really sell that realistic look. So I do this a lot when shooting night for day, and I just wanted to get bright exposure because I know I couldn't add a whole landscape out the window. That's just not possible. But I knew I wanted brightness and level. So we took a 4x4, it was like a poly silk, something white. That's the kicker here, is you want something white. And we just hung that outside, kind of diagonal, like it was almost facing the camera. So parallel to the camera. And we just put that up on a stand just so it was covering the entire window. So that way when the light was hitting it, the light that we were bringing in the house, it just made it a bright white, and it made it look as if there was bright sky out there. And that kind of sold the look of it's daylight, not shooting at night. So a lot of the times I'll do that. I'll take a white rag or a white bounce board, a big white frame, something like that, and make sure that light is hitting it. Some of the light, in this case, the light was bouncing off the house and exposing it just nice. That's always a good trick to use when you're shooting at night. Now, you can see if we kind of cut into Mom's face, she's got really nice pleasing light on her. It's not really hard like you see it coming across the countertop. And this technique you've seen me do before, I call it the soft hob. A lot of people know it as the soft hob technique, which is essentially you're feathering that line of soft and hard light using lighting diffusion. It was like a 2-foot poly silk frame that I had, and I just put that up on a stand, and I worked with our gaffers to just dial in the exact level of where this diffusion was hitting. So that way what I was looking for was this line of diffusion to fall to cover her face and then kind of chop right at her chest line or her neckline. So that way you're still getting the characteristics of this hard light across the body, this afternoon light, but you're still giving a nice pleasing soft light on your talent. Okay, so frame left of the house, we've kind of got covered. We got the two 600Ds splashing in as our sunlight. So after looking at the monitor, which, speaking of the monitor, I want to talk about that for a second. And more specifically, the OC Tech LCM215-HDR plus 21.5-inch monitor. That's a mouthful, I'll put it down below. But OC Tech sent this monitor out. You can actually see it over my shoulder there. They sent this monitor out to me, and I was like, great, this will be fantastic to try and use on the film, this cardiac kill film. And let's be real, the only reason we all have monitors is the same reason we only have a matte box, and that's just because it makes us look cooler. But I guess aside from that, there are some benefits on this film. We used it day in and day out, and it was so helpful to just be able to see your feed on a 21-inch monitor. And this thing is bright. It's 1500 nits, so when we were shooting outside at sunset, I still had it at like 75%, and I could see it clear as day and all totally good. And just being able to see your feed on a large monitor just made it so much more helpful. You miss things when you've got your typical 5-7-inch monitor, and it's got all of the features as well that your typical 5 or 7-inch monitor would have, like peaking, false color, zebras, it's got anamorphic mode, it's got audio channels, all of these things. You can load in LUTs as well. It's a super solid monitor. And that's all I've got to say on it. So back to this breakdown. So kind of like with that poly that we put outside to make daylight, we want to keep everything consistent because we are shooting at night, so the house is going to be dark. And we, you know, when it's daylight out, we've got light coming in from all of the windows in the house, not just the windows that you want. So to create this consistency in natural daylight, I saw that frame right kind of on that the shelf that you see kind of peeking into the corner into that other room, that living room. It was really, really dark because there's no daylight out. So this was a quick and easy one. I just put up an F22C, an Amaranth F22C, and I put that with a softbox on. Now, I used the softbox to kind of create this ambient soft light because we've got our sun coming in this side of the house on frame left. So it wouldn't make sense to have a hard light coming from frame right. So that's something you want to be mindful of, is keeping your lighting direction consistent as sunlight would be. So I was really just trying to replicate some ambient sunlight bouncing around throughout the house and adding some level on that frame right shelf that's over there. So ultimately that is the entire breakdown for this scene. We've got kind of two shots. We just had this wide establishing and then tight. And it was, you know, it was a pretty simple scene as far as sunset lighting goes, but there's a few just little tips and tricks that I thought would be pretty helpful to talk about in this video, like the skylight and, you know, the consistency of lighting direction, the soft fob technique, all of this fun nitty gritty stuff. So that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to go take some Advil, maybe drink a beer. Adios, hasta luego. I'll see you guys in the next episode, and take care and have a good holiday season that we're coming up on. All right, adios. See ya. Bye-bye.